Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to ask about liability relief, but it sounds like that was covered, and all witnesses, especially the agencies, want to find a solution through legislation. So it's great to have some consensus here. I also was going to talk about categorical exclusions. It also sounds like Mr. Hayden has also spoken to the importance of categorical exclusions. So given that those items have been covered very well prior to my questions, I'm going to continue to move down this path of CE authority, though, in a little more depth. Mr. Casamassa, I will have a question for you. Our witnesses have touched today on the importance of the use of categorical exclusions for environmental review. Could you speak to the value of a CE, and is public input incorporated in a review under a CE?
Yes, Senator. Certainly based on the routine and minor nature of some actions associated with the work that is being proposed by utility providers, there's an opportunity to potentially expand what kind of work they can do and work within the frame of the National Environmental Policy Act. So certainly a categorical exclusion that goes beyond the scope of what we have right now would be advantageous for the agency.
Yeah, and I think it's an important point that a categorical exclusion does not mean that public input is excluded.
Well, certainly there is some level of notification and input that it would be provided from communities of interest and constituents who are interested in that kind of work.
Yeah.
And I do want to point out that, one of the things would be is that this would not be a categorical exclusion where we would exclude this from analysis. It's just a category within the analysis process that we do.
All right, thank you. Mr. Rabel, could you shed some light on the penalties utilities face to keep the grid reliable, and how the lack of vegetation treatment poses a significant financial risk that you may ultimately pass on to ratepayers?
Yeah, so to build on what Chairman Murkowski mentioned earlier, the utilities are indeed, based on FAC 003, Section 4, subject to penalties up to and including $1 million per day per violation. That, of course, is dependent on a couple of factors: the violation severity levels and the violation risk factors. So depending on the magnitude of the severity and the risk that the utility has assumed, those fines could be up to and including $1 million per day.
Thank you. That's big money, real money, particularly thinking about the co-ops and so forth out in Montana. That a lot of Montanans find out there's a longer month than there's a paycheck, and that's a very important point. I made this point earlier when I was introducing Mr. Hayden, but let me just conclude by saying when I was here that first week of August, in fact, right here at this dais, on that particular day, Montana had 30 of the top 30 fires in the nation burning in our state. And I'd just gotten off the phone with one of our county commissioners from southwest Montana, where there was a very large BPA transmission line running near one of the fires. And the carbon that was emitted from the fire and the particulate in the air was such that it presented a risk to the firefighters on the ground from arcing from the high voltage line to the ground. And so at that point, we couldn't even think about vegetation management along these power lines. We couldn't even get firefighters near the power lines to even fight the fire. I think it highlights the importance that we need preventive measures and good, responsible, sound timber management practices here to ensure that we can keep the forest healthy and to protect these important assets that when the fire burns, it's sometimes too late. And that's why I think what we have here with this bill is good common sense forest management. Thank you for your thoughtful testimony today from all the witnesses.